Hello again, and it's time for another project. Today we're going to route out these flowers on these 5 pieces of rough fencing wood. It measures in at 35 inches by approximately 29 inches across. These projects are too big for my little workshop. There's a reason why I stick to the average 6 inches by 6 inches. I just don't have the space. But we're going to crack on today. I've done 4 of these in the past, and I have my own little method of doing them. In a perfect world, you would route this out as one big piece, and it's manageable, but I've got to squeeze in that little gap down there. So this one really needed to be removed, just to allow me to get into that small space. That's the way it is. Just work with what you got. So what I tend to do is, in the past, I've routed these out as separate boards. So 5 separate little projects, and then we screw it all together at the end, and hopefully we'll end up with nice big 29-inch by 35-inch piece. Now it's a bit awkward to see there at the moment in time, but we'll certainly get a better view when we start on the routing side of things. Literally all I did for this one is Google image flower templates, colouring pages, stencils, silhouettes, and you'll find plenty like these to go on. And literally just spread them about randomly on the paper itself, on the wood itself, should I say, like so. And literally just place my carbon paper underneath, go around it with a pen, and then move them all again, and literally just done the same again. So basically we've filled up this nice section of wood with plenty of flowers. Quite a project, this one for me. So, but it's also one of those projects you could do maybe one strip and put it to one side, and then come back in a couple of weeks and do another strip. Don't feel forced to do it all in one go. So we've got our images on there, remember, good old carbon paper. I've took the time to shade in all the areas that I'm going to remove, because we'll come back and start removing these sections here, the dots, bit of pattern that we put on the flowers, and obviously we don't want to remove that. Now the idea for me is I'm going to remove these as separate pieces, and I'm actually going to put 2 of them together. We'll start out with these end 2, and on the back of it I'll literally just use these pieces of wood like so, screw them on the back, one there, and one at the end just there like so. You can just about see it on the camera. Underneath, remember, and that will just hold those 2 sections nicely together. We'll do all the router work with the CNC bits, clear it all out, and then we'll go on to the next 2 sections and do exactly the same on those 2, and then we'll have the final one at the end. Once it's all routed out nicely, we've moved all the shaded out sections, hopefully we can put it all together with basically the same pieces of wood at the back, just cheap fencing wood. Behind this at the moment I have 2 strips of this running the full length of that, so 29 inches, sorry, about 27 inches. I do leave a little gap at the end at either side, just to allow for the brackets to go on when we're going to hang it on the fence. I will show you that towards the end of the project. So at this moment in time I have 2 big full strips like that at the back of this, and that's just keeping it all in one place. But it's just too big to work on. By the time you've gone over here, it's got to be back breaking, and I just don't have the room or the space. So we're going to do 2 strips at a time. Now for the routing outside of things, as always for me, I like to use these CNC bits. 20 degree today. These are perfect for these little jobs. You will need a reducer collet, a 6.35mm, and your CNC bit 3.175mm. That just slots into the silver end. That's now got a 1/4 inch shaft with a dark section. You pop that into your router, set your depth. I'm going to work on 3mm for this one. I made myself a little gauge like so, and it's exactly the same thickness as one of your bits, so we know that's 3mm, or 3.175 if you want to be particular. And we'll set it to that depth, go around all the lines, the inside of the lines. Remember, on this old project, it's going to take some doing. Remember, we're only going to see 2 boards I'm going to show you guys, and then I'll do the other 3 boards at my leisure. and hopefully we'll come back to put it all together and we can put some paint on it. Once we've gone around all the lines with the CNC bit, normally I would use end milling bits. These are fantastic for these kind of projects. They fit the same adapter collet. You just literally just remove that, pop that in there and push that up to that barrier. Some have the barriers on, some don't. So if you purchase them without the barrier, don't be overly concerned. Just push them up to the similar kind of distance like that. And I would use those to remove all the shaded out penciled area. Because there is quite a lot and it's going to take us a while, we are going to try these metric straight flush bits. That will be the size I will use, the smallest one. That will allow me just to get into these smaller areas. They do come nice big chunky size like that. But that's far too big. You'll get in there and it's quite aggressive. And the little bits in between, it will snap those off, no problem whatsoever. But we'll persevere with that as we go along. Okay, I'll go away now and literally just take this apart with the screws from the back and put two sections back together using our bits of wood there, and then we're ready to route it out. Bear with me on this one, guys. Right, you can see from that we've got our first two sections. This is just a nicer size for me. I've got more room so I can sit down on my little stool down there, lean over nicely and route away to my heart's content. Sometimes you just got to modify things to suit the situation. With my little small workshop, I've got another option. So I can lift it up now so you can see our little templates all nicely drawn. I've gone around with my pencil. Remember, these sections here where it overlaps, we're obviously going to remove that section there and remove that section there, just leaving that line in between. So it looks like the actual petals have overlapped each time. And there we go. Like I said previously, just a temporary couple of rough screws in the back, 3 bits of the same wood, just to hold it in place. I have routed these out as single ones before, and it's just as easy to do. But I'm just going to try and do 2 at the same time. It's smooth enough for the router to run on, like so. We've set our CNC bit inside. It's set at 3mm. We've used our little gauge, if you can just see there. That just slides over there nicely. Now we start doing all these lines. We'll do these 2 sections complete as if it's an end project. So we'll do all the lines first, and then we'll remove all the sections. Just give you a rough idea what I'm trying to achieve here. And then I'll go off and do the other 3 sections. And then come back when it's time to screw it all together again. Literally the same idea at the back. I don't use any glue on these at all. It's entirely up to you. You could glue them all together, plane them all down, make it all lovely, lovely smooth. That's not the kind of project I'm going for. I have marked them off on the end there. T1 and T2. Obviously T3 for top, T4 and T5, just so we know we put them back in the right way. But obviously all we're going to do is match it up like a nice giant jigsaw at the end. Okay, we've got our router ready. We've got our wood ready. Let's start routing this one out. Right, you can see from that we've gone around all our bits. Well, hopefully you can see. I do apologise for the quality of the filming. I do film off my mobile phone. I've upgraded my phone and the filming is just not as good. And unfortunately I've got rid of the old phone. But you can see the general idea. We've gone around all our lines with these CNC bits. So we've separated the 2 different sides. So when we come with our other bit, we've got no issues of this breaking off. Now you can see from that one there, I've removed one of the leaves already, or sorry, that's a petal. We've removed one of the petals. We've basically got to do that with all the rest. Right, moving on swiftly. Now normally I would use these end milling bits and they're fantastic, but it's just going to take a little bit too long to do. So today we're going to try these metric straight flush bits. I've used these before and they're fantastic and they're fairly cheap. You can get a pack of 6 or 7 for next to nothing. They come in various sizes. You obviously wouldn't want something that big. That's quite aggressive. One, you won't even fit it into some of these flower petals. So we don't need that. I'm going to go for the smallest one. This is a 1/8 one, I believe. And that's enough just to pop in the router. We'll set it to the same depth as that one, remember, or any of these little bits that we've took out as we've gone along. You don't need the adapter collet on this one because it's a 1/4 inch shaft. I will put a description in the title of all the bits I'm using for those that want to try them out. Okay, I've already popped this one in the router. As you can see from here, excuse me, as he disappears off camera to find it. So we've got that one set in there nicely. Exactly the same piece. Okay, let's start removing all these inner sections of all these petals. Okay, just a quick one. We've actually removed the straight flush bit. They are good bits, these, and I've used them on previous projects. But it's just a little bit aggressive today. It could be the wood. I'll just show you quickly. It just seems to be ripping at it more than cutting it. So I've removed the straight flush bit and I've popped on one of my favourites, these end milling bits. So we've got that in the router, as you can see there. And that's just going to take a little bit longer, but it's just giving you a nice, smoother finish. So it's definitely a case of finding out what works best for the project. So we'll stick with the good old end milling bits and we'll continue to remove the rest of these flowers. Right, you can see from that we've done 2 sections of our 5-section piece. Now I've removed the woods from the back, so these are now separate now, obviously. Personally myself, for the other 3 pieces, I will simply just route them out as single pieces. The idea was there to join them together, but because they're not glued and playing down flat, this little section in between, it made a little bit of a lip. And I just found I was catching it with the router. So for me personally, and for future references, I will just route all these out as single pieces. We nearly lost a mouse sander there. Okay, so we've got the general idea that we're going for. Now you have 2 options here. You can make it really work for yourself and actually route it out in between each flower. So the flower would just stand up slightly by 3mm, obviously, because that's the depth of our cut. But for this one today, I'm just going to sand over all the old piece, do away with all those lines. So when we're done, we'll basically just have wood in between, like so, and not have a routed out area. It's a personal thing again, but we can see from that we're getting the general shape of our flowers, and that'll be near enough for me. It'll be totally different again once the paints go on. All these flowers will really pop. And then obviously when we could put it together, we'll get our 2 bits like so, plus the other 3 pieces. Remember, I will do those off camera now, because you've seen basically it's going to be the same procedure over and over and over again. So it's a slow project, this one. The good thing about wood projects, these are just for my personal use, so there's no orders involved. I can just take my time with this, and I'll leave it a couple of days and come back and do another section. Enjoying it is more important to me than rushing a project. So for these 2 pieces now, we've obviously routed them out. They're all good to go. We're just going to give them a general tidy up. As always for me, I like to use a flexi cable. This is just a cheap eBay special, not original Dremel. You don't need them. With a nice engraving bit on the end. They do come with different heads on. Just see that there. I like to use one with a nice flat head, and that way we can get inside there. Just give it a general tidy up around all those on both pieces, plus the other 3, remember. Bit of sanding down, and we'll even skim over with a mouse sander. Just get them all nice and neat, and then I'll continue with the other 3 off camera, and we'll come back when hopefully we can put it all together, and we'll talk about what kind of paints we're going to use. So general tidy up first, and then when you come back next time, the other 3 hopefully should be done also. Right, you can see from that we've done our 5 sections. They all more or less match up fairly perfect, or near enough for what I need. I'm not going to use any glue, remember. These are just going to be held on by 2 pieces of the same wood at the back, with plenty of screws in. We're just going to screw it in from the back, and we'll even use the pieces from our start of the project. These ones here, we'll throw those in the middle like so, just to use them up, because we won't be using them on any other project. So they're all nicely done. We've cleaned them out best we can. I wanted a nice weathered look, so I'm not going to spend hours and hours sanding them right down, but that's definitely near enough for what we need today. They line up fine, and there's enough. I'd actually thought I'd finish this project, stood back and was admiring it nicely. Then I realised I'd missed out a full circle there, so I had to get the little router out again and clear that one off. So they line up nicely enough, like I say, for what we need. Just a case of painting them now. Now I will leave these separate, it's just easier just to carry them about. We can go indoors, paint 2 at a time, so that obviously the flowers match over, and we'll go on to the next one, the next one, and the next one. Then hopefully when we put it all together, we'll have a nice display of flowers. For the paints today, I'm going to use Painter's Touch paints. These are great little pots, and they're ideal for outdoor. And we're just going to go random, just crazy. Go reds, yellows, greens, blues. Going to be nice block colours. We're not going to get any Van Gogh or Michelangelo, should I say, from my painting, that is for sure. Just work within your limits, and you do the best you can with what you've got. So we put all our paints on. No sanding sealers or anything. There is a sanding sealer that you can purchase to brush on here first if you have issues about the paint bleeding into the side walls of the routed out area. I personally have never used sanding sealer, definitely not on these rough fencing wood. This paint's fine, it doesn't leak anywhere, and I certainly don't get any bleeds going into the side walls. And what we do, we'll paint all this, get the paints in, and then we'll come back with a mouse sander, give it a nice skim over again, just to smooth out these areas, make them a little bit sharper. And then we'll put on some boiled linseed oil. That's all I'm going to use just to darken this wood down again. No sprays, no varnishes, no finishes, no fancy polyurethane, spar urethanes, crystal clear. We're going to have nothing on this one. I'm happy enough with that. So in time, this will get darker and darker, this wood, and it'll have a nice weathered look for it to go out into the garden. And then we'll just screw it all together. We've got some little brackets I'll show you later for fastening it onto the side of the fence. And then this little project will be finished. Okay, so I'll go away, pick off our first little section, and we'll start painting this one now. Right, we've got our 5 sections done, all painted down. We went over them all with a mouse sander just to make it a little bit more crispier. As I said previously, you can see there's no bleeding of any paint into that wood at all. We've painted the tops of the raised sections. So all we need to do now is literally just going to cover all the wood with boiled linseed oil. I do use this on a lot of my projects and I've certainly got no issues with it. So we're just going to cover the rest of the wood. I've left it loose like this because I want to get some of the oil down the side sections as well. So it's just a simple case of popping it on. You'll see how nice and dark it goes, like so. So we're just going to throw it on like that. Now it doesn't matter if you get it on the paint, that's no problem whatsoever. We'll just pop it in. So you pop it on like so. Get all the side bits done as well. Just give it a nice coating. I'll come back when all 5 pieces are done and we've down to the final bit of screwing it all together. Okay, that's it. This little project is finished. You see, we put those strips on the back with plenty of screws to hold it in place. There's no glue on this project at all, so it's nice and secure. These sections will shrink slightly as it dries out, but they'll also swell up as it rains, so there's room for movement, so I'm quite happy with that. For hanging purposes, I like to use these corner brace brackets. Here's a nice new one here. If you fasten them in there for the gap that fits in between of these supports of the project, and we'll pop that in the middle now with the other 2. There's 2 down there and we have 2 over here. Now you can see how dark that wood's gone. That's literally the linseed oil and obviously the weathering. They've been out 2 or 3 years, these ones, I believe. Okay, we'll hang this one up. This little project will be over. So it's routed out flowers using CNC bits for the lines. We use the end milling bits just to clear out with. Painted with painter's touch paint on rough fencing wood, and it measures in at 35 inches by 29 inches across. Thank you very much for watching.